And for the 21st time ever, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Reviewing Network Live. It's one of those interesting weeks. We have a lot of stories to cover. The box office, however, is not interesting in the slightest. It was a pretty slow week. There was only one new release, and it wasn't even that big of a new release, if we're being quite honest with you. Anytime a Bleecker Street movie is the biggest new release of the weekend, then you know it's a pretty rotten weekend at the box office, no doubt about that. But we're going to get to that real quickly. We have a lot of stories to cover. Some big news stories from the past week, some stories that were reminiscent of stories that I've talked about on the show in the past. We've got a lot to get to here, so let's not waste any more time and just jump on into it. But first, we always have to put the disclaimer out here that this is a weekly stream of consciousness conversation recording session where I sit down with you guys and talk about things that happened the previous week before. Now, these are more like longer audio podcasts, which means that they're longer than my usual videos, and they are also, for the most part, unedited. So there will be some foul language here, and if you're offended by that, you might want to step away. But if you're up to the challenge, as always, sit back, relax, and let's begin the conversation. And like I said, it was not a busy or interesting week at the box office whatsoever. Mostly, this was a week for me personally to catch up on a couple of films I did not get to see the previous week. But I will get to those in just a second here, because they are, in fact, the top two movies of the weekend. But running through these pretty quickly, we literally can just run through these pretty quickly, because I've literally talked about them on a number of different occasions beforehand, and I'll probably continue doing so over the next couple of weeks. So, number 5 this week was Migration. Had the smallest drop-off of the bigger new releases this week, 15% drop-off, $5.3 million. $94.6 million after 5 weeks. It's going to hit $100 million probably next week. Already grossed over almost $200 million after the 5 weeks, and $200 million worldwide, I should say. And it's a movie I really loved. I really enjoyed this movie a whole lot. Number 4, not so much. Anyone But You, which continues to have a minuscule drop-off, 24.2% from last week, $5.4 million. $64.2 million after 5 weeks. The worldwide gross just took it over $100 million. So, I mean, it just goes to show you the power of these two stars, Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. I just wish they were in a better movie. This was at the bottom of my worst of the year list, and if you want to go check that out, I'll have a link to it up in the corner. So, number 3 on the list, probably the most disappointing film of last year, Wonka, still hanging around in there. 24% drop-off, $6.4 million, bringing its gross up to $187.1 million after 6 weeks. Worldwide gross over $530 million. Not much more to say about that one. So, like I said, we're chugging along through all of these. So, number 2, finally a movie I can talk about, which is The Beekeeper, which opened last weekend, did pretty well, dropped about 49%, close to 50% from last week, $8.4 million, $31.1 million. After 2 weeks, the worldwide gross is $75 million. The budget on this movie, I believe, was not that big. I don't know if they've updated this or not with the budget. They still have not updated this with the budget yet, but it can't have been that expensive. I would be shocked if it was that expensive, but I finally got to see it this week, and I will say it's one of the most fun, over-the-top movies that you could expect from a movie called The Beekeeper that has so many bee puns to it, and like you expect, like it's one of those movies that the trailer really does sell you on what this movie is, and this is the type of movie that should be opening up in January, the dumping ground month. This is a film that should open in January. It should open up in a time when there isn't any big, real contending blockbusters to come in and take control of the box office. And this is just one of those so bad it's good movies. It's just like, it's a fun ride. I really had a good time watching it. Directed by David Ayer, written by Kurt Wimmer. A good fun movie. This is what The Expendables 4 should have been like. But with that said, let's get to the number 1 movie. And the number 1 movie this week, not surprisingly dropping off, Mean Girls, which dropped 59%, $11.7 million, $50 million after 2 weeks, $66.2 million worldwide so far. Now, this is actually much higher than where the original Mean Girls was at, but that was kind of to be a given, considering that the first Mean Girls opened around $24 million, I think, and it ended up at around $88 million. So this thing's got like $38 million to go before it matches what the original movie did, which assuming that is depending on this weekend in particular. The fact that it's still dropping off as much as it is, at that big of a drop off overall, that might not be a good sign going forward. But on the plus side, it's not going to be a busy weekend for the next couple of weeks. I think the next big new release that comes out this weekend is The Underdogs, and even then, that's a Snoop Dogg movie that's going to be exclusively on Amazon Prime, so that one's not going to make a ton of money, so that one should not be expected to do all that well. I'm trying to see what the next weekend after that, on Groundhog Day weekend. Well, Groundhog Day weekend has Argyle, which is the new Matthew Vaughn film, so that's probably going to be the #1 movie that weekend, so this movie probably has surely has one more week to it before it eventually gets on out of here, which it's really not going to make much of an impact as we go along here. The only reason this movie I think is going to make any money going forward for the next 2 weeks is that there's literally nothing else to combat it until we get to Argyle on February 2nd. But yeah, I'm still conflicted on how I feel about this movie. Like, on the one hand, it's a pointless remake. It probably does not deserve to exist, except for the fact that it's a musical. It's a musical adaptation of the Broadway show. But at the same time, the musical elements aren't bad, and neither is the casting in general. It's just like, I'm really conflicted on this one. Even after the hours after I did my talking about the movies review, I'm still thinking about whether or not, I really don't know how to feel about this movie, quite honestly. Like, again, like I said at the end, maybe I have to see it again at some point to see what my true feelings about it. I'll probably wait till it comes out on Paramount Plus or when it comes out on Blu-ray, because I'm not really keen on going to see it again on the big screen anytime soon, So what about the new release this weekend? What was that big new release? And that was ISS, which is a film that you probably, if you watch a lot of football, you've seen a lot of commercials for it on there. I have no idea what this movie is about. All I know is that it has Ariana DeBose from West Side Story, and the trailers feature the music of the Scorpions' Winds of Change. And that's pretty much all I know about it. The story of this movie, apparently, is that centers on a group of astronauts and cosmonauts living aboard the International Space Station. Tensions flare as a worldwide conflict breaks out on Earth. Reeling from this, the astronauts receive orders from the ground, take control of the station by any means necessary. And looking at the reviews for it, it's not gotten terrible reviews. It's got a 62%, which is passable at best, but the cinema score for this is C-. This thing cost $13.8 million. It has already only brought in $3 million, so more than likely, that means this film is going to really kind of come and go at the box office. Like, it's going to come and go, even without the lack of a new release. Nobody really was interested in going to see this movie. I've talked to people who have seen the movie, and even they were just like, it's not worth it in the end. It's not even worth it to be in a theater. And just kind of a slow period right now. But only a couple more weeks left until we finally get to the good stuff. We hope, but then again, what else is coming out that is besides Argyle? Madam Web, which the more I hear about that movie, the more I'm just kind of like, yeah, I'm not doing this again. I did this with Morbius. I'm not going through this again. Adam Scott could be Uncle Ben. Like, get the fuck out of here. We do have Turning Red and Lisa Frankenstein coming out Super Bowl weekend, so I'll at least have something to talk about there, because those are movies I actually really want to see. I really want to see Turning Red on a big screen. I really want to see Lisa Frankenstein, especially considering that it's Robin Williams' daughter directing it. And we got the Bob Marley biopic coming out on Valentine's weekend too, so there is at least going to be some stuff coming up. It's just we have to get through these couple of periods coming up. These next couple of weeks, and then the good stuff will come, we hope. So with that said, I think it's time to get into some stories. It's time for some story time. So way back in September, there was a story that I talked about on one of the earliest episodes of the Reviewing Network Live. I actually did a video for the main channel, a preview from that particular episode, talking about the news of Pauly Shore wanting to get the blessing of Richard Simmons to play him in an upcoming movie. And I actually have that video I did back in September, and I'll let you go ahead and take a listen to some of it right now.
Pauly Shore feels it's time for a Richard Simmons biopic. And Pauly Shore goes on to say, I've noticed all the reactions to me playing Richard Simmons in a new biopic, which, first of all, who is giving you these reactions to play Richard Simmons, honestly? Like, I'll keep going. The Encino Man actor, which that should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about Pauly Shore. If he hasn't done anything of noteworthy since Encino Man in 1992, then that's probably the first red flag right there. So,
yeah, So even back then, I said this was completely ridiculous. But nevertheless, something must have happened, because just this week, this story came out on the Hollywood Reporter, and he did it. He got Richard Simmons' blessing to play him in a movie. This is a story from the Hollywood Reporter. Pauly Shore is set to play fitness media mogul Richard Simmons in a feature film. The project is set up by the Wolper Organization, who, of course, you may know them recently. They've been worked on the Willy Wonka movies. They just put out Wonka a couple of weeks ago. Prior to the film, which the announcement notes is currently casting, Shore will be seen as Simmons in a short film called The Court Jester, which we screened at Park City during the Sundance Film Festival, but not in the features lineup. Jake Lewis, who was behind the internet video Robin Williams test footage, directed Shore in the short, which is unrelated to the feature film. Last year, they talk about the memes and all that, and they just basically go into some descriptions here. I've actually got the little bit of the trailer here, so let's go ahead and take a look at this.
What's my first rule? Like yourself. Your weight doesn't matter. If you like yourself, you're gonna be fine. But I've been where you are right now. And where I'm right now is I just love myself. Every part of myself. And I think I can show you how to get here. Please welcome Richard.
Okay, well, it's just, like I said, it's only a little bit of a teaser trailer. It's like literally less than a minute long, and from the little bit I've seen from it, I'll give him this. He does kind of look like him, and it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look like bad makeup work, honestly, the more I look at it. But yeah, I'm just more shocked that Richard Simmons was literally giving him his blessing to actually go ahead and do this. And you're obviously waiting for some punchline here, and there actually is a punchline, because as it turns out, Richard Simmons never gave him his blessing to do this movie. And he literally said this on his Facebook page, which I've got right here. And it's a really quick little thing, too. It's just like, hi, everybody. You may have heard that they may be doing a movie about me with Pauly Shore. I have never given my permission for this movie, so don't believe everything you read. I no longer have a manager, and I no longer have a publicist. I'm just trying to live a quiet life and be peaceful. Thank you for all the love and support, Richard. So, this movie basically Pauly Shore made this movie without getting his blessing whatsoever, because he was so tempted to do this, because he so wanted to have his Brendan Fraser moment, where he just came back, and he's still thinking that he's going to be at the Oscars in 2025 for this movie, which, I don't know, man. Like, like I said, him in that trailer did not look that bad, but Shore did talk about this more, and I've got the story here from Variety, who did an interview with him after this, and Pauly Shore responding to Richard Simmons after the fitness icon disavowed the upcoming biopic in which Shore is set to play him. Shore stopped by the Variety studio presented by Audible while at the Sundance Film Festival, saying his Simmons movie is all about love, with or without the real Simmons blessing. And he says, my come from has always been love. My come from has always been love. It's never been vindicated. I'm not Borat. I'm not let's make fun of someone. It's the opposite. At this point, it's an unauthorized biopic, and they're made every day, which he's got a point there. I mean, we're going to talk about a Michael Jackson biopic coming up soon. And does anyone remember the infamous Michael Jackson biopic from VH1? We'll get to that one just a little bit, though. But yes, I want him to put his pixie dust on this and say, go for it, Pauly. It's Richard being Richard. It's sensitive. We don't want to bug him. We want him to be left alone, and we don't want to bug him. We want to pay homage to him and kiss his feet and say he's done beautiful stuff. Who's going to play Richard Simmons? Leonardo DiCaprio's not going to play Richard Simmons. I look like him, which, again, he does kind of look like him. So I'm glad to see that he is coming out and basically saying that, hey, we're going to still keep doing this, even though we're not going to get the blessing from Richard Simmons in general, which I think he'd probably be better off like that. I mean, most of the time, when you get these biopics, most times it's hard to tell the actual story the way it was actually told in real life, and you have to sanitize it. I mean, one of the greatest examples of that is Bohemian Rhapsody, which sanitizes Freddie Mercury's story to be too safe and marketable. I mean, we see this so many times with different biopics. So In a way, yeah, I get why they really don't care what Richard Simmons thinks about it. As long as he's doing this because he really does believe in the project, I really don't see a problem with it. Like, I mean, yeah, I was questioning whether or not he would actually want to. Why would he want to do this, and why because it felt like he was just doing it right off the success of Brendan Fraser's success with The Whale. But then again, just this week we had another story. So is with Sharon Stone saying that she originally pitched an idea for a Barbie movie in the 90s and they laughed it off. And my first thought was, sure they did, Sharon. I mean, you haven't done anything of real relevancy since you were nominated for the Oscar for Casino. So maybe, and Barbie was the most iconic film of last year. So yeah, get your name in the news out there again. But then again, maybe she did pitch a movie. Maybe she would. But it just feels like the timing of that seems very interesting and off. And it feels the same way with this, too. Like, hey, if the movie ends up being good and he actually does put his heart into it, then more power to him. I'll give him the praise that he deserves for it. I hope it does turn out good. I mean, we always like to hear these comeback stories. Like, we always want to see the guy who was down and out come out bigger and better than he was before. And why not him? I mean, yeah, his career when he was at the peak of his popularity maybe wasn't the best overall. Made a lot of terrible movies that people instantly forgot about pretty quickly, and even those who saw it see it as like a guilty pleasure film. But then again, who knows? Like I said, who knows? Maybe this actually is something that he put a lot of effort into it and wants to make this his breakout film that shows everybody, hey, I've got the acting chops to do this. So you know what? More power to him. Let him do it. See if it works out, and if it works out, I'll give him high praise for it. But so yeah, I wanted to update that since I talked about it on this show a couple months ago. So with that said, let's talk about another biopic that's getting a lot of buzz and sounds probably the most interesting out of all the news stories that came out this week. So this was a project I didn't really know too much about when I saw this, and it was just like, wait, you guys are really doing this? That sounds awesome. There's a Hollywood Reporter first broke this story. Actually, Deadline Hollywood first broke it, but I'm reading it off the Hollywood Reporter. Gabriel LaBelle, Cooper Hoffman, and Rachel Sennott have been cast in Jason Reitman's feature Saturday Night Live 1975, SNL 1975 to be exact, about the early days of Saturday Night Live. Reitman is directing the film for Sony Pictures about the debut night in October 1975 of the NBC sketch show that's currently in its 49th season. 49 years, man. And if you've been watching Saturday Night Live the last couple of years, it's just been kind of like, when can Tina Fey finally get here so she can turn the show around again? Because the last couple of seasons have been extremely rough. I mean, but that's a whole nother story altogether. But Gabriel LaBelle, who had a breakout role in Steven Spielberg's semi-autobiographical drama The Fabelmans, is set to play SNL creator Lorne Michaels. And definitely looks like him from the pictures I see right here. Like, he does look like a younger version of Lorne Michaels, so I think that's pretty good casting. Cooper Hoffman from Licorice Pizza is attached as former NBC executive Dick Ebersol, while Rachel Sennott from Bottoms will play Michael's ex-wife Rosie Schuster. Reitman wrote the script with Gil Kennan based on the pair's extensive interviews with all the show's living cast, scribes, and crew. Reitman and Kennan previously co-wrote Ghostbusters Afterlife, which was my favorite film of 2021, and the upcoming sequel, which I'm excited for that one as well. Anything else here? Hoffman is the son of the late Oscar-winning actor Philip Seymour Hoffman, earned acclaim for his leading role in Licorice Pizza. He also appears in the Ethan Hawke-directed biopic Wildcat, which debuted at the Telluride Film Festival last year. Sennott has been known for films Shiva Baby, Bodies, 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 and Bottom, as well as a recurring role on HBO's The Idol. Reitman's late father, Ivan Reitman, worked with a number of legendary SNL performers. This includes the elder Reitman, having produced the John Belushi starring National Lampoon's Animal House, and directed such Bill Murray vehicles as Meatball, Stripes, and the original Ghostbusters. And they also mentioned that Lorne Michaels discussed his future with SNL recently and cited Tina Fey as a worthy successor to run the show when he is ready to retire. So this could be a very interesting film. I love Jason Reitman as a director. I was a big fan of Ivan Reitman's directing for a number of years. I consider him up there with some of the great directors of all time. And this just seems like a story that would be perfect for a movie of this type. I mean, if you ever seen that, there was an NBC documentary they did back in 2005 called Live from New York, The First 5 Years of Saturday Night Live. It was like a documentary where they brought in everybody from the first 5 years. And they talked about what it was like working at NBC and Saturday Night Live at the time. And what I thought was really interesting about that is that, like, the stuff they've talked about, like, you had people living in their office buildings. They didn't have homes to go to. Like, everybody there was pretty much working there for whatever money they could, because a lot of them did not have the money to sustain a substantial living, especially in 1970s New York City. These stories are all very, very fascinating to hear and listen to, and you think, if this is done well, and they get an actual director who knows what they're doing, like Jason Reitman knows what he's doing. He's a fantastic director who's made a lot of great movies, has very rarely made a bad film in his career. I think the worst film he ever directed, if I remember right, that was Labor Day, and that one didn't work mostly because it was just a little too melodramatic for somebody like Jason Reitman, where you expected so much more from him. But that was probably his worst film. He's made a couple ones that were not great, but they weren't terrible either, like Men, Women, and Children, which had some good ideas to it, but not the right execution. The Front Runner was not a good film, and was not a great film overall. It was decent, but it could have been a whole lot better. Tully was just meh. I felt like he worked better with Charlize Theron with Young Adult, but I like him as a director overall, and I love this idea. I do like this concept in general, and what could be done here. If Sony lets them do whatever they want to it and make it an R-rated movie, this could really be something really special. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they do with this particular project. So I wanted to bring that one up, because that was one of the big movie news stories from this week in general. Excuse me, burp right there. So anyway, on to the next story. So another news story that broke out this week was that Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan are coming back together again for the first time. And I say that because they've done so many of the best movies from pretty much the last decade, honestly, the more I think about it. And there is a new movie coming out involving the two of them once again. This is another story from The Hollywood Reporter. And the story goes like this. A reunion between filmmaker Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan for a feature film project has studios and streaming executives buzzing. The untitled project is to be the next movie from Coogler, the filmmaker behind Black Panther and Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Coogler wrote the script and will direct. Jordan, who frequently worked with the filmmaker, including the Panther movies, as well as Creed and Fruitvale Station, would star. This is the first spec script from Coogler through his production company, Proximity Media. His only other spec was his 2013 breakout, Fruitvale Station. This one is a fully internally developed project. It's based on an original idea from Coogler, who will serve as lead producer. Producing with Coogler are Zinzi Coogler and Sev Ohanian. I think I'm pronouncing that right. The project is operating under such a veil of secrecy that little is known about it. In fact, executives and buyers were forced to make the pilgrimage to the Beverly Hills offices of WME, the agency that represents Coogler and Jordan, in order to take a gander at the script and get details. Those meetings took place last week. Coogler and his team are being methodical. The second step is occurring this week, with interested parties meeting with the filmmaker to help him lay out his vision. A production commitment will be asked. The project is being developed as a genre feature. That, however, is a wide-ranging term that encompasses horror and its subsets, as well as thriller, science fiction, even fantasy. Two sources have said that there is a period element to the story. Coogler's camped no comment. Coogler is one of the most sought-after filmmakers of his generation. He reinvented the Rocky franchise with Creed, which has now spawned 3 movies, and Michael B. Jordan, of course, taken the mantle on that, and it's turned out one of the best movies of the year last year with Creed 3. That was, of course, what I said, because the Creed 3 was one of my favorite movies from last year. While his Marvel Studios debut, Black Panther became a cultural touchstone, generating $1.3 billion globally and earning a Best Picture nomination, a rarity in the comic book genre. Jordan both starred and directed in Creed 3 and is due to tackle a 4th installment, which, I mean, that's pretty much all I gotta say about this, because there really is little known about this particular movie, but I'm already set in because it is Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan working again. They have made some of the best movies from the last decade. Fruitvale Station was one of my favorite movies of 2013. Creed was one of my favorite movies of 2015. Black Panther was one of my favorite movies of 2018. Black Panther 2, one of my favorite movies from 2022. And like I said, Creed 3 was one of my favorite movies from last year. I mean, so much positivity going into this. I mean, really, there's not much more I could say about this. It hasn't already been said already, but the concept of doing a genre feature like this, I mean, Jordan Peele's made that very successful in his own right, so if they can do something on the level of what Jordan Peele brings to the table, this could be a really, really damn good movie. So Needless to say, I'm definitely looking forward to checking this one out whenever it gets made. So, definitely going to be very interested to hear the news of where this goes from here on out. But like I said, I can't wait to see this one. So, with that said, let us move on to our next story. And again, we're kind of not going to delve into this story too much because it's mostly just centering around a photo that came out. But this photo in particular is from a substantial movie coming out pretty soon, and that is the first image released of the new Michael Jackson biopic, simply titled Michael. The film star is Jafar Jackson, who is, of course, the nephew of Michael Jackson. He released the photo on his Instagram page Friday. The black and white shot from the biopic shows Jafar Jackson performing the music icon's signature gravity-defying toe-standing move while wearing a black fedora, which, of course, he used at the Motown anniversary special back in 1983. Now, here's the interesting thing about this movie. The project is directed by Antoine Fuqua of the Equalizer franchise and Training Day, which is awesome. It's written by John Logan of Gladiator, which is also awesome. And a production team that includes Graham King, Bohemian Rhapsody. There's the red flag right there. We talked about it already. Bohemian Rhapsody was a movie that was more safe and marketable than actually wanting to tell the true story of what happened to Freddie Mercury, and unfortunately was the overhyped film, meanwhile Rocketman, the Elton John biopic, was the far superior film and completely got shunned by everybody, which baffles me. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about this Michael Jackson biopic. Jafar Jackson writes on his Instagram, "The journey starts Monday," referring to the film beginning production. The studio said the biopic will cover all aspects of Michael Jackson's life, which presumably means it will address the child sexual assault allegations that have been made against the singer who had died in 2009. The disturbing allegations were documented in the HBO documentary Leaving Neverland. The documentary detailed two long-running relationships Michael Jackson began at the height of his stardom with two boys who were 7 and 10 at the time and their families. In the doc, the now-grown men tell the story of how they were sexually abused by their singer, even though that documentary was clearly... Later on down the road, they literally said that they made the whole thing up. Pretty much. I mean, that's what I remember from that. And it's because of that, you don't get to see that great Simpsons episode with Michael Jackson anymore. Like, that's no longer available unless you have the DVD copy of it, which makes no damn sense at all. But again, we're not here to talk about that. The biopic's official description reads, "Michael will bring audiences a riveting and honest portrayal of the brilliant yet complicated man who became the king of pop. The film presents his triumphs and tragedies on an epic cinematic scale, from his human side and personal struggles to his undeniable creative genius amplified by his most iconic performances. As never before, audiences will experience an inside look at one of the most influential, trailblazing artists the world has ever known." Keep in mind, this is coming from the same production company that gave us Bohemian Rhapsody. What do you think they're going to focus on in this case? I mean, yes, it's a Lionsgate production, which means that they aren't like the major companies. They're not Universal. They're not, even though Universal is handling the international front on the international release of this. They're not Warner Brothers. They're not Disney. They're not up to that high caliber yet. They have blockbusters, but they're not on that level yet. So I'm hoping that the studio will be more laxed on what they try to do here, but I'm more worried about what the Jackson estate is going to do to try to sell the storyline. Like this was, I think the biggest problem with this, for me in particular, and that is not with the casting or the look of the movie in general, but it's just the way it's going to be presented. And two, you have to. Is this movie really needed to be like more than one movie? Like, I always envision like a 3-part trilogy, talking about the different periods of Michael Jackson's life. Like when they were talking about this originally, I always thought maybe somebody like Steven Spielberg should get behind it, because he could make this story work as a producer. And then you have somebody like an Ava DuVernay, who was coming off of Selma when I had these thoughts, and I think she could have made this work. I think she could have made this work as a 3-part trilogy, like a 3-part film. Like, you open up, like one movie opens up in the holiday season, next one in the summertime, and then the next one, the last film around the next holiday season, like a 6-month period in between films, because this story cannot be summed up in just one movie. I feel like that's going to be incredibly tough to do. But, like I said, the talent is there. Antoine Fuqua is a great director, and so is John Logan, who's a great writer, even though he also co-wrote Bohemian Rhapsody. And that's been my biggest thing about these biopics. Like, they don't really go all the way out like they should. Like, Rocketman was such a breath of fresh air because it wasn't afraid to tell a story that was legitimately happened. Like, is what happened, mixed in with a little bit of a fantasy aspect. I mean, that movie made that work and was completely shunned by everybody. Never got a single Oscar nomination except for the one for Best Original Song. But it's easily the better movie of those two films. And I want more movies like Rocket Man. No, I don't want movies like this or like Bohemian Rhapsody or Elvis. You know, these movies that come around where they try to be like the authentic biopic, and then they just completely sanitize it because we can't make this guy look bad. It'll offend his family members. It's just like that's not how this works. Like, that's not how this whole thing works. Like, don't be afraid to tell people the truth about what we already know and what we don't know, because you know what? An authentic biopic where stuff actually happens and actually is based on what actually happened in real life makes it much more interesting than the stuff that you're trying to fabricate as something that did happen but really didn't, because we're trying to make the families of these other people on the screen not feel offended by anything. It's like come on, man. Like, I'll give him this though. I'll give this guy credit though, Jafar Jackson. It does literally look like him. I mean, if you would have told me that this was Michael Jackson doing that dance in a studio getting ready for this, I would believe it. But then again, it's his nephew. I mean, he was around him for a long period of time, and at some point, I would think Michael would have to show his kids how he did that, or his family how he did that. And yeah, it looks good. It looks like Michael Jackson. I mean, there's really not much more I can add to this that hasn't already been said already, and what we already have out there, mostly because it's just this one photo. I'm just hoping that it's a good movie, like with the Richard Simmons biopic. I hope that they're actually putting the effort into it and telling a story, and not just telling a story that's going to impress him by completely fabricating his life in general. I hope that's not the case here. I just feel like you could have done this with more than one movie. I feel like a trilogy probably will make this a lot better, but then again, we have to wait and see. This is actually coming out sooner than I initially would have thought. It's coming out next April 2025, so let's see what they can do. I'm really curious to see how this one's going to pan out. So that is some of the big news stories from the past week. Now let's get to some stories that I kind of wanted to delve into here, and we're going to start off with something that's going to make me really, really not happy to talk about. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Actually, you know what? We can save that rant because there was one other story I wanted to cover, and this happened just a couple of days ago, and it's not really anything movie or TV related, but it relates to sports, and probably easily one of the most significant sports outlets out there. I mean, besides ESPN. I think you know what I'm talking about here. Well, let's talk about what's been going on at Sports Illustrated, and more like the hell that's happening at Sports Illustrated right now, because on Friday, it was revealed that the entire staff of Sports Illustrated was told through email their jobs have been eliminated after Authentic Brands revokes license to publish. And this is from Deadline Hollywood, and the story goes, union vows to fight for every one of their colleagues. And this is how the story goes. Following through on a warning earlier this month, Authentic Brands Group has revoked Sports Illustrated's license to publish due to mispayment. As a result of this move, the entire staff of the 70-year-old print and online publication was notified on Friday that their jobs would be eliminated. We appreciate the work and efforts of everyone who has contributed to the SI brand and business, Sports Illustrated operator The Arena Group wrote in a memo to employees that prompted outrage and lamentations on social media. You don't fire people through social media and emails. You know what companies do? You know what happens? What they call companies when they do that? Wusses. They're scared to tell them straight to their faces, and this is the only way they can do it. It's like literally watching. It's like the equivalent of a troll telling somebody that they hate somebody, and then just like, I don't need to do anything else because I said what I need to say. What are they gonna do? They can't say anything to my face. In a statement, Sports Illustrated Union and the News Guild of New York vowed to fight for every one of their colleagues. The Arena Group, which had operated the venerable brand under a licensing agreement since 2019, said in an SEC filing this month that it did not make a quarterly payment of about $3.75 million. Authentic issued the company a notice of breach with the intent to exercise its right of termination. Arena said in the filing, additionally, that they are in discussions with the licensor. In a statement provided by Deadline, Authentic Brands says it has given the Arena Group a chance to come up with the quarterly license payments, terminating the license. Despite the action, the statement continued, "Authentic is here to ensure that the brand of Sports Illustrated, which includes its editorial arm, continues to thrive as it has for the past nearly 70 years. We are confident that going forward that the brand will continue to evolve and grow in a way that serves sports news readers, sports fans, and consumers. We are committed to ensuring that the traditional ad-supported Sports Illustrated media pillar has been in class stewardship to preserve the complete integrity of the brand's legacy." The internal media memo from Arena said some workers will be terminated immediately while others would continue to work during the 90-day notice period. Employees are legally required to give employees under the WARN Act. All affected employees will get severance pay, the memo said. And it goes on to say, "It has been a bumpy ride for Sports Illustrated in the years since it left Time Inc. Time Warner sold Time Inc. to Meredith in 2017 for $3 billion, with tentpole properties, Time, Sports Illustrated, and Fortune leaving the fold under separate divestitures orchestrated by Meredith, and as it's focused on female-skewing titles like People and In Style. SI's fabled roster of contributors, from sports writing immortals like Frank Deford and Jen Jenkins to the literary likes of William Faulkner, kept the magazine on the top shelf of the media in the last part of the 20th century. Its photographs were the stuff of museum exhibits, dramatically expanding the sports fans' previous media dirt on box scores and wire service-style game stories. Transitioning to the digital age, however, has been challenging for SI. As with all print-dominated business, Sports Illustrated was beset by online upstarts like Deadspin, Bleacher Report, and many others, not to mention social media, and found itself to having played catch-up. In addition, YouTube videos have basically kind of changed that too. I mean, all the sports people that you see on there, like Urinating Tree and Jaguar Gator 9. Who else? That's Good Sports, 5 Points Vids. Those guys there have kind of helped to move the transition to the digital age, pretty much. And Sports Illustrated has been kind of left in the dust, kind of like with most magazine companies out there. So basically, like, this is the end of an era, and really, when you think about it, Sports Illustrated kind of is. There's only really one thing that we look to Sports Illustrated to nowadays, and that's most people do, and that is the swimsuit issues that come out every year. So, and that's because that's still I believe that's still their highest seller is the swimsuit issues, and they have and I'm not gonna lie, I grabbed a couple of issues. I grabbed a couple of issues myself for research purposes, of course. Of course, why wouldn't it be? Like, you get the idea here. But really, that's the best thing that Sports Illustrated is known for nowadays. It's no longer that company that you go to nowadays to really get your information from. It's kind of like what's going on with ESPN right now. ESPN, they always claim to be the worldwide leader in sports, but really, the whole thing, unfortunately, is the sad part is that ESPN is really just struggling to find its way, and in a digital age, it's another one of those companies that had a hard time transitioning to a digital age. And you hear the idea now that that ESPN is basically in talks to buy the NFL, and that means they would pick up the NFL network as well, and yeah, like, there's a lot at stake here with this. A lot of people are going to lose their jobs. A long-standing tradition in terms of sports media is going away pretty soon, and it's just something that really is very, very interesting to think about now. Like, who would have thought in 2024 we would have stuff like the death of Sports Illustrated, people like Best Buy getting rid of physical media. There's like, the world around us is changing, man, and like, it's either adapt or get the hell out of here. And unfortunately, Sports Illustrated, I think there's another article out there New York Magazine put out that basically said, the title of it was basically "Greed Killed Sports Illustrated," and they go into saying this, and I'm going to read a little bit here. So this says, "The reason for the magazine's sudden closure came down to debt. Sports Illustrated had been housed in a complex corporate structure ever since it was sold to Meredith in 2019 for $110 million. Later that year, ABG sold off the publishing rights to a company called Maven, which was led by publisher Ross Levinson. That deal meant that Arena had to pay $15 million a year for 10 years. Those payments have deeply strained the magazine's operations. In February, management laid out the magazine's sports editors. One employee told me, generally, everyone looked around at each other and said, 'What do we do when one of the NBA writers files something when the editor was just fired?' And that repeated over and over in every other sport. Like, you guys, I don't know if you read the title of our publication. I'm trying to see what else we have here. In this article, it also says the end functionally came on January 3rd when Arena Group failed to make the $3.75 million debt payment to Authentic Brands. That gave Authentic the right to revoke the publishing license as well as correct another $45 million from another payment. The next day, Bagarva stepped down as interim CEO to avoid conflicts of interest. Staffers had found the final months before the closure break with morale low. It's like, what are they doing fucking around with us? They spent $100 million on us. They've already got the $60 million back just because it's been 4 years. So there is definitely a lot to take in from this whole thing. And it's unfortunate because, Sports Illustrated was a part of a lot of people's lives back in the day. And for some, it still very much is. I mean, it's still something that a lot of people still hold very much to this day. But like I said before, it really just comes down to the most notable thing Sports Illustrated does now every year is their annual swimsuit issue. And even then, they're not going to do that anymore with the situation that they're in right now. So I don't know. It's just a very interesting thing that's going on there at Sports Illustrated. I hope those guys, the employees that work there, I hope they find better jobs soon, because that's a sucky way to find out that your job that you're getting fired in that way. Like, nobody should ever have to send you an email or tell you on social media that you've gotten fired. That's a coward's way out. Like, if you're going to tell somebody, hey, you're fired, get out of here, just say it straight to their faces. Like, it's going to be dickish, but it at least shows that you at least care that you're at least doing your job. This is a scumbag move. This is a type of move that somebody like a Bobby Petrino or Urban Meyer did when they went to the Atlanta Falcons and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Bobby Petrino literally left a message in the lockers of all their players saying, guys, it's been fun. I'm going to go take this coaching job here. And never said anything to anybody, just left and took the coward's way out. I mean, that's what it feels like Sports Illustrated is doing. They're taking the coward's way out. They don't want to pay they can't pay the money. And so this is the end result of it. And I feel so bad for the people that work inside Sports Illustrated. You guys deserved much better than that. Hopefully you'll get on your feet pretty soon. I hope they are paying you enough to at least get you back on the right foot again. But that's a dickheaded move by Sports Illustrated, man. That's just a shame that has to go that way. So now we can finally get into the thing that I really do not want to delve into here, because it's just going to lead to a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. But then again, that's what it's been ever since that game ended on Monday night. So now let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just life in general, you can't always win. I get this. That's probably a horrible way to start this off, but let me just tell you something, man. This last week was such a letdown for me. I mean, I know. I get it. I had no reason to believe the Steelers were going to win this game against Buffalo on Monday. I even predicted that to be the case, but I just wanted them to be different than what they were the last couple of years, because this is now 8 years now without a playoff win. Their last win came in the divisional round against the Chiefs when Chris Boswell kicked nothing but field goals and then went on to lose in embarrassing fashion in the AFC Championship game because their plan quickly got deterred and they had no plans on fixing the problems and just basically rethinking the strategy going into the rest of the game. They went with the same plan they had before, and look at what happened. Missed out on a chance to go to the Super Bowl. New England wins the Super Bowl that year. Then the next year, 13-3, they have one of the best records in the NFL. Could have had home field advantage if Jesse James did catch the football if the referees weren't trying to give New England the win. And then you welcome in Jacksonville, a team that destroyed you in the regular season, and you let them come in and just dismantle you for 21-0 before you even get to the end zone. And then 3 years later, you finally get back to the playoffs. Browns humiliate you in your home. Then you go to the Chiefs next year. Chiefs embarrass you there. So I thought Ben Roethlisberger being gone and having a new system, a new quarterback, a new idea of how the Steelers do their business now, I thought they were going to lose this game, but it would be much closer than it had any right to be. Nope. Let me tell you the moment is the moment I shut the game off, because I shut the game off because one, it was at work for obvious reasons, and two, the moment I shut the game off, it wasn't the Mason Rudolph interception, it wasn't the George Pickens fumble, it wasn't, it wasn't like the big penalty, it wasn't like any of those obvious plays the Bills kept getting because the refs were playing favoritism. Seriously, don't tell me the NFL isn't rigged when you see some of the stuff that the Bills got away with last week. I'm watching the game right now. There are several moments early in this game where they're still getting away with stuff because NFL's playing favoritism right now because they so wanted this Mahomes-Allen matchup, but this time it's going to be Mahomes inside of Allen's home. It's just please, I've got enough problems with the NFL right now, but no. The moment I knew this game was over, the Steelers-Bills game, the moment I knew it was over was when Josh Allen found a pitch-perfect throw to Dalton Kincaid on the sideline. Because at that point on, I just knew for the fact that I knew exactly what was coming next. A drive down the field where they're going to score a touchdown, and it's going to be game over. So I shut it off after that first throw. I checked back on my social media, on Twitter, and guess what happened? Every time I refreshed it, touchdown Bills, 3-and-out Steelers, touchdowns hurt Bills, interception Steelers, fumble Steelers, field goal Bills, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing over and over and over again. Steelers made a comeback in the third quarter, so hang on, folks. Don't go anywhere because you never know. No, it's the playoffs. Everything's crazy. I've watched this team most of my life. I know I've watched the last couple of years to know what's coming next. Everyone's going to get so hyped up and so excited that the Steelers may come back and win this game, and all Buffalo would have to do is have one perfect drive down the field, completely ruin everything, and guess what happened in the fourth quarter? That drive. And so now that's 5 playoff losses in a row since the last playoff game they won. So you would think that after 16 years of this, you've got a situation where people were furious at Mike Tomlin for what he was doing, and it's hard for me to get behind this guy anymore because of the fact that he still keeps doing this. He's never able to adapt and realize that, hey, maybe I should do things differently. Maybe I shouldn't have that stretch in December where I'm losing back-to-back weeks to 2-win teams and getting completely embarrassed by the Colts on national television. Maybe at that point, the organization should look at this and go, Mike, you've been around for a while now, and maybe it's time that we talk about moving on, moving on from, getting a new voice inside the locker room, getting a new identity for the Steelers, because we can't keep pretending like we're still stuck in the olden days, and we can't keep pretending like it's still 2004 when everybody else is moving into 2024. So, guess what the hell they're doing? They're going to keep pretending like nothing bad is happening to them. Mike Tomlin's going to coach next year. They're already talking about a coaching extension. All the players on the Steelers are happy about this because Mike Tomlin's back. The Pittsburgh media is happy because Mike Tomlin's back, even though they wanted to get rid of his ass last month. And what are we doing? What are we doing? Why are we doing this again? Every other team in this league right now, whenever they have a bad run, and a run where they haven't sniffed a Super Bowl in years, they think, hey, maybe it's time we move on and actually do something different. The Seahawks are moving on from Pete Carroll. New England is moving on from Bill Belichick. Even Alabama, a college football team, that powerhouse, is moving on from Nick Saban, even though they were this close to getting to the national championship again. Meanwhile, Mike Tomlin, hey, as long as he's got those winning seasons, that's going to be more than enough to keep him around there. And it's just last year was that year when I said, I feel like I'm in a really bad relationship. I've been married to this team for so many years. Last year was basically me telling them, hey, listen, I've had my concerns about this. I want a separation because it's not you, it's me. I just can't take this anymore. And now this year is I'm filing the divorce papers. I want out. I want out of this organization. I want this organization out of my life because I can't take it anymore. This team is literally going to do the same damn thing for the rest of my life. They're never going to adapt. They're never going to get up to date with everybody else in the league because they still are of that belief that if we keep doing the thing that we're doing for the last 20 years, it's going to work out in our favor because, hey, that 2005 run, we were the 6th seed. No 6th seed had ever made it to the Super Bowl before, and look at what we did there. 2008, we got lucky because Tennessee completely shat the bed against the Ravens, and we got to host the AFC Championship game. We got lucky in 2010 because Mark Sanchez beat the Patriots in New England, and we got to host the AFC Championship game and made it to the Super Bowl that year. And, that's all fine and dandy and all, but what do you have to show for it? Really, what do you have to show for this? The winning records. I'm sorry, this is the team that has 6 Super Bowls. You don't think they would like to add more to those, especially considering when teams like Kansas City is currently on their way to potentially going for more Super Bowls, when the Ravens are on their way to a deep Super Bowl run, possibly. You think maybe you want to get back to that echelon where everyone thinks you're the top dog in the league instead of being a second banana to the New England Patriots? Because that's where you are right now. And as soon as New England wins another Super Bowl, you're just going to be another one of those 31 teams. You're going to be one of those teams that nobody's going to give a crap about as soon as the second New England gets another Super Bowl. Well, that's not going to happen anytime soon. So, you really think so? I'm not saying Gerard Mayo's going to take him to the Super Bowl right away, but you know what? New England's already moving in another direction more than you're moving in another direction. I'm just done with it, man. I'm just really done with it. I can't take this anymore. I'm at the point right now where whoever they get to replace, Garbage and Matt Canada as the offensive coordinator, I don't care because it's not going to be who you want it to be. It's not going to be this refreshing young mind that comes in here and can really help Kenny Pickett become the quarterback that he should be. No, it's going to be some guy it's going to be a veteran guy that's not as good as they make it out to be. They're going to use this free agency, and everybody wants them to get a new quarterback. I keep hearing Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and the one that just makes me this will make me literally throw everything out of all my Steelers stuff away if they actually do this. Kirk Cousins. I don't want Kirk Cousins anywhere near this team. He's a terrible quarterback. He's the equivalent of Brock Purdy in San Francisco. He's the weak link to that team making it to a deep Super Bowl run. I'm sorry, Brock Purdy is not that good of a quarterback. I know people don't want me to say this because he's in the NFC Championship game. He's in there because he's got Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, and one of the best defenses in the NFL. I don't want to hear anything about Brock Purdy being the significant MVP. You're trying to create a story because he was Mr. Irrelevant, and that's the only thing you have going for it. And it's just, I'm sorry, he sucks. He's a terrible quarterback. And I bet some of you are wondering, so why are you still not giving up on Kenny Pickett yet? I'm not giving up on Kenny Pickett because he had a terrible offensive coordinator the last couple of years. He had Matt Canada there, who basically regressed him from the quarterback that he was at Pitt. And you know what? I'm not giving up on him because you know what? We need to see what a real NFL offensive coordinator can do. And they have to get a real coaching talent, not somebody who's within the organization, not somebody who is just the janitor in there. Hey, you made these plays out. Come on and call plays for us. We won't mind. This can't happen anymore. This team needs to get their heads out of their asses and move and pretend like it's not 1994 anymore. The old ways don't work as well as you think they do. I'm sorry if they don't want to admit that, but the old ways don't work anymore. That's why Kansas City is always going for Super Bowls every year. That's why the Ravens are going for every Super Bowls every year. I feel much better in the future of the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns than I do about the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. That's how bad the coaching is for this organization. And guess who you're going to get in 2024? You're getting a Kansas City Chiefs team who has already become one of the most obnoxious teams ever because of Travis Kelce's significant other, which I won't say here. But you're also getting a team that's one of these teams that may hire Bill Belichick and Jim Harbaugh as their coach. The Chargers, the Raiders, Not the Raiders, because they just re-signed Antonio Pierce, which good job on you, Raiders. You actually are learning. But I'm talking about like the Falcons. That's what is they're going to is like the Colts are going to play them again. The Jets will have Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, and the Cowboys. Who knows what the Giants will be like? Who knows what the Eagles will be like? Because of course, when you go to Philadelphia, if you're the Steelers, you're automatically going to lose because you haven't won a game there in 40 years. Like, I'm just over it, man. I really am freaking over it. I just can't take it anymore. Like, it's the same thing every single year. This team never adapts. They get these players that you think are going to change the whole dynamic of your organization, of your team in general. And then all of a sudden, it's just like, nope, nothing changes. It's the same garbage every single year. And I'm just over it at this point. I'm completely over it. I could go more into it, but I want to get to some funny stuff here. So let's go ahead and try to lighten the mood up here a little bit. So let's move on to a fun, happy topic. Custody battles. Okay, let me explain something here. Yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna move on from that. But anyway, I have a guilty pleasure on YouTube, and it's usually Karen videos, Ken videos, I guess people call them Kens. I like to call them Mitches because they're basically male bitches. Kens, Mitches, Karens, whatever you want to call them. People who just have too much time on their hands to go do something else. So instead they're going to bother people with something that's not even that important. But then there were some things where you kind of have to take notice of it. And one of the things is, of course, custody battles. And I say this because while I was watching videos this week, I came across this YouTube channel called Karen Karma. And one of the videos on there was a video they put out called 24 Minutes of Rude Karens versus Judges. And of course, they have a bunch of court clips here of Karens trying to be above the judge that's right in front of them, or the people in front of them, because they're just Karens and they feel like they are superior to everybody else but themselves. And they had a clip from one show that used to be on TV back it's a couple of years ago. It was called Lauren Lake's Paternity Court, which I never watched in particular. I don't usually go into watching those court shows. The only ones I've ever really watched are little bits of the People's Court with Marilyn, I think Marilyn Marshall, I think it is. The person who was just on there the last couple of years that show was on the air. And then a little bit of Judge Judy, because there are some fun Judge Judy moments where people get shut down so quickly, cases just end almost abruptly. Like, that's fun stuff there. But this right here, I saw this in one of the compilations, and I had to look up the information on this story before I really delved into it, because I feel like this is something I need to talk about, because this is something that's just like, when you watch it and you see how one person reacts compared to the other person, it's just really unbelievable to see. I've got the episode here, and this is basically, it says in the description, Miller versus Rasmussen. A Tigerton, Wisconsin woman is in court to prove that her ex-fiancé, the man who drove 100 miles per week to see his daughter, is not in fact the biological father. So I'm not going to play the whole clip here. I just want to play the end of the episode, because I feel like that's where we need to go into this conversation here, because this is where you find out whether or not the kid is actually this guy is actually the father of the kid, or he's not. And I want you to watch this clip very closely. I'm going to stop it right to the point where it's going to get really, really. You're gonna hate yourself for it, but you also might laugh at how over the top this woman gets. I'm going to let the clip play here. I hope I got the right part here.
3-year-old. Diagnostics, and they read as follows.
All right, here we go.
Do you want to watch Paternity Court on TV? Go to paternitycourt.tv to find your local listing.
Okay, let's go. That's the
case
judge.
of Miller versus Rasmussen. When it comes to 3-year-old Zaylee Rasmussen, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Rasmussen, you are not the...
Okay, so he just found out he's not the father. And you're going to see in this clip here, I want you to notice two things. One, the guy is devastated. He's devastated because, as it says, he drove 100 miles for the birth of is every week to see his kid. and he drives 100 miles for the birth of his child that this woman says isn't his. And so, okay, the father is the guy here clearly is devastated at the fact that he does not have the opportunity. That this is obviously now confirmed that he is not the father of this child. But you're going to see that this guy actually gives more of a crap about about his daughter than what the mother is going to show you. I stopped it right before the moment when she found out, and I just want you to listen to this. Now, it's revealed that the guy's not the father. So the mother, ordinarily, if you watch an episode of Maury Povich, when they do the "you are not the father" sequence, if the mother is the one that's instigating the thing and she's hoping that the father's there, she will usually be very emotional. She will be very upset. She will go into the back where they have a couch waiting for them to cry on, because if you did it in front of the cameras, it just, I don't know, I guess maybe people laugh at you this, but no. Not this woman. This woman decides to do something so heinous and so ridiculously horrible that I'm just going to let the clip play. I'm going to go back a little bit here. And here we go. Listen to now listen to the mother closely.
In the case of Miller versus Rasmussen, when it comes to 3-year-old Zaylee Rasmussen, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Rasmussen, you are not the father.
Stop that. Just, you heard that right. This woman, as soon as she heard the phrase, "you are not the father," she's dancing around like she's on the Maury Povich show. And not just her, but the person she has next to her is celebrating too. So it's like, what are you celebrating for? Like, really? What the hell are you celebrating for? Like, I just don't get it. And that right there shows you how much of a monster this woman is. Like, and I don't think I need to tell you about it. Let's let Lauren Lake, the judge here, tell you how she really feels about this whole thing, because this is what makes these shows so watchable, is watching idiots like her get her medicine, her medicine. Like, this is something that she deserves coming to her. So let me go ahead and go back to right around here. And just listen to the judge.
You are not the father. Miss Miller.
Be respectful.
Sorry. Miss Miller. I'm sorry.
She says she's sorry. I'm stopping it because, you know, notice in the clip, if you're watching this clip with me, you notice that nobody else said anything. Nobody got up and cheered. Nobody did the crazy, the dancing like they do on the Maury Povich show. Everybody else was respectable. They were quiet, except for these two women right here. This woman, I think this is a woman too. I don't know. Next to her, I don't know, because from what I'm watching here, the quality of the video is not too great. But at the same time, though, like, I'm gonna keep going now.
That's a lot of nerve.
And she's still going, and she just smirked and smiled like she just won the lottery. It's just like, what are you celebrating for, you stupid, stupid bitch? And again, let's let the judge have her say on this.
Considering the alternative is somebody that don't want nothing to do with you or your child. That's a lot of nerve.
And you see the guy is just devastated. Like, he is so heartbroken by this whole thing, and you really do feel for this guy. Like, you really do feel his pain right now because of this. And the mother is just like, I'm just happy that, for what? Like, for no reason whatsoever. Explain to me why you're happy, but I'll let it play on.
You just showed me where your priorities were right there. Because I held out hope that you weren't just acting a fool because you so mad at him because he cheated on you that you would cheat your child out of a father. But that cheering you did? What you cheering? I'm a single mother with nobody that loves me or my child. What you cheering for?
I'm nice.
No, you were. He is over here breaking down because he loves this child so much. I sit here day after day after day with women hoping a man would drive 16 miles to see their baby, much less 160 miles each way, and abide by a court order and sign a birth certificate and come day after day and week after week so they can grow visitation to have a relationship with a child. And you have no compassion for not just him, but for Zaylee. She's 3 years old. Now, he's not just going to be heartbroken. We got to break this news to her. And y'all over here cheering like it's a sport. This is this baby's life. And I asked you, where's this other man? I don't know. And you know he don't want nothing to do with you. Sitting up there cheering.
You know, I've worked in a grocery store for the last 2 decades. I've seen families and parents that, I've seen in my life that I've honestly told myself I never want to have kids. Not because I don't want to ever be a father or anything. I just don't feel like I could really be. I'm at that point where I don't feel like I could be as good of a parent as people want me to be. How my parents raised me. Like every time I see families when I'm working and when I'm out, and I see a lot of them the children acting like they're at Chuck E. Cheese, and the parents are hardly doing anything, if anything at all, not showing any discipline, because if they show discipline, it means they're a horrible parent. No, if there's discipline, it's showing that you're a good parent. And most of the time I see that, but a lot of times I don't see that, and that's why I don't want to have kids. Like, I'm not really ready to be a father. Maybe I will be someday, but I'm in no mood right now in any point in time to become a parent. But let me tell you something. I hope I'm never a parent, as I never get to the point where I'm forced to have a kid and I have to have is from somebody, and I have to have a wife like that, or the mother of that, be so, like, you could just tell that she never wanted to have this kid. Like, she's one of those unfit mothers you hear about all the time. The type of mothers you see in these types of videos where they're forced to having a kid because they have no choice. She doesn't know who the father is, and quite frankly, she doesn't want to know. And that's a big mistake right there. As you see throughout this clip, if you're watching along with me, the father is just this guy is just so devastated, because think about it. Not only is he devastated, but his 3-year-old little girl is still too young to really get an idea of how the world works and all that. And now the fact that she's going to have to find out from somebody, either her mother or the judge, that this guy that's been taking care of her the last couple of years is not the real father. It's just devastating to listen to. And it's just like the audacity to go out on there and be like, I'm going to be so happy, like you feel like you just won the lottery because you're a horrible person, and this person that's been taking care of your child is not the person that you get, that was actually her father. It's just like, it's unbelievable how people act sometimes, and it's sickening to think about that. But unfortunately, people like her show that it's more common than we give them credit for.
Mr. Rasmussen, I am so sorry. I know this hurts you.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't know what I'm going to do. She's my whole world. Everything I do is for her. She was the reason I went to work every day.
I know you have a bond with her.
I feel like my whole world is in ruins now.
Oh. Miss Miller, I'm going to say this to you before I adjourn court. Your child deserves to know who her father is. Whether or not that man wants to be in her life, physically present and participate. He does have a legal obligation to help support her financially. It's important that you make this right. She'll one day ask, where's my father? Every action you take from this point will write the story that you will later have to tell her. I wish you the best of luck. We have counseling for you. Court is adjourned.
So, yeah, like, usually on these shows, you can usually tell when somebody is, like, hamming it up to get an overreaction. I don't feel like this guy is overreacting at all. I feel like that's the exact reaction you would have, knowing that this person that you've taken care of is not your child. And the fact that this mother probably does, I'm willing to bet you this mother probably doesn't know who the father really is, because, who knows, maybe she is sleeping around with other people. But you know what? There are places out there where you can easily find that information pretty quickly. It's going to cost you a little it's a pretty penny or two, but you know what? The little girl deserves to know who her real father is. And, like, I don't know what happened to this guy in particular, but I hope that he's still someone in his life somehow, because in her life somehow, because of, you know, the fact that they were together for a long period of time, for that long period of time. But, you know, I hope that this wasn't the last time he saw her, and like they still have somewhat of a connection. I mean, this is just something that's really, you know, this is something that really, like, you have to be you have to know what you're doing if you're gonna take care of a child. Like, taking care of pets is tough enough. But at least with a pet, you get an idea. It's simple. It's mostly like, you know, comfort them, make sure they're fed right, make sure they have toys to play with. But with a child, a human child, that is something so important, and so much has to go into it before you're really ready to say that you're ready to have a kid. But basically, this woman right here, the fact that she was literally cheering the fact that her daughter's fatherless is just like I hope karma bit her in the ass big time. Like, I really hope something, like, I don't wish bad things on too many people in general, but like, that's something what's just gotta, like, you know, I hope karma gets you one day, and I hope and hopefully it does. Like I said, this is something that's been around for a couple of years now, so who knows, maybe that is something that happened. But you know what? We're going to end this on a little bit of a lighter note. We're still in the courtroom here, but here's some fun, stupid stuff that happened in the courtroom. Not real stupid stuff, like cheering the fact that this man that your daughter has been hanging out with is not your father, and you have no idea who the father is. But no, this was another video that came literally after that, and I thought this was just so hilarious with the way that this was so handled. This was a video that took place in a courtroom. And I'm trying to figure out the details of what actually happened here. I can't really find any details on this particular story, but I just thought this was so amusing. So these people are in this courtroom. I guess this is the defense, I think. And for some reason, they have no evidence ready to go for this particular case here. At least that's what the story is here, from what I remember. Let me go ahead and play the clip for you. This is from the exact same video where I got the Paternity Court video from.
We have counseling for you. Court is adjourned.
When the judge's gavel sounds more like a Karen alert, you know the courtroom just turned into a reality TV show.
Who's questioning this witness? Hello? Was your next witness? These don't have anything to do. Yeah, we're just entering that. These are just records. We're just doing it now. So is it a secret who's going to be questioning your next witness? Because I'm going to find out in like 3 minutes. Who was doing it?
The record's not relayed, but if we call witnesses, it will be me. I'm assuming you're talking about that.
Who is your next witness, and when are they being called, and which attorney is going to question them?
So these people, from what I'm getting here, they did not have any other witnesses except for I guess maybe one person, because the judge keeps asking them, "Who's your next witness? Where's your next witness? Is it going to be like a secret witness or what?" And you know, these two lawyers are just sitting there like, we don't have any other witnesses here, and the judge is flabbergasted right now. Like, it's going to get worse from here, but that's just kind of what's being set up here.
Let me be clear, if I wasn't before. Because if these don't have anything to do with your next witness, then why are we having a jury wait outside right now?
Just because we were trying to move everything in, because in terms of timing, we do it now.
In terms of timing, it would be much better to do it during the lunch break, when the jury needs longer than you all. So, we'll go ahead and pass on this. Let's bring the jury in, please.
Your Honor?
Yes?
At this time, the defense rests.
So they're resting on nothing else but that one witness, and then that's it. Like, they are literally unprepared for this court case. Like, you prepare for months for this type of stuff. Like, you prepare for months, maybe years, but like, for these two to just come into this courtroom and act like they could just have that one witness in there and that's all they need to do, it's amazing. You would almost have to think that this is something staged. Like, there's no way that this could be real, but yeah, this is something that actually happened, and I wish I had more information on this, but I literally cannot find the information on this anywhere, unfortunately. But this is only the little bit of video that I have here. Just as unprepared as they are. So they're talking about putting in their records.
We're not playing chess. I mean, will you please take the jury back now? Thank you. All right, go ahead and bring your records.
Okay, so this is much more than I thought it was. This was actually the defensive case for Nicholas Cruz, who was the Parkland shooter back in 2018. It's back in 2018, I believe. And I've got the story here from the Associated Press over on this website, ABC 25 News. So let me go ahead and delve into this before I head back to the video, because go ahead and turn that off for a second. But so the story goes. The judge overseeing the penalty trial of Florida school shooter Nicholas Cruz refused to step down Monday, rejecting a motion by his attorneys who accused him of being biased against their client and prejudicing the jurors who will decide if he should die for murdering 17 people 4 years ago. Circuit Judge Elizabeth Shearer denied the motion, saying it was legally insufficient. Shearer last week chewed out lead defensive attorney Melissa McNeil and her team outside the jury's presence, accusing them of being unprofessional when they unexpectedly rested their case after only about 25 of the 80 witnesses that they had told her and prosecutors they intended to testify had been called. So they brought in 80 witnesses and only 25 of them were able to testify against them. And then the defense said in court documents filed last week that those comments and ones the judge later made to the jury were the zenith of the cumulative disdain they alleged Shearer had shown throughout the case towards Cruz and themselves. The defense had no obligation to call all of its proposed witnesses or notify the judge or prosecution when they planned to arrest, legal observers have said. Prosecutors agreed in court documents that Shearer's comments did not rise to the level of demonstrating bias against Cruz. They cited the 1994 Supreme Court ruling saying that a judge's expressions of impatience, dissatisfaction, annoyance, and even anger against the defense are not grounds for stepping down. If Shearer had stepped down, a mistrial would have been declared. The new judge would have required months of preparation before a new trial could be held. Cruz pled guilty last October to murdering 14 students and 3 staff members at Parkland High School on February 14, 2018. His trial, which began with jury selection and testimony in July, is only to determine if he's sentenced to death or life without parole. For him to receive a death sentence, the jury must be unanimous. What I'm getting here is that the defense for Nicholas Cruz, they basically just went in there and just went with what they had, and the judge clearly was so upset about it. And like, this is unprofessional stuff, and especially in a case like this with the Parkland school massacre, you have to get this right. Like, you cannot just sit there and pretend like these guys should it's like they tried to cut this down so quickly. Having a 6-week trial for this is ridiculous. It's just way too long, and the fact that you weren't even prepared for this, it just goes to show you that this offense had nothing to go against. Like, this is something that, it's asinine. And you know what? I feel for what she was going through here, because this is such a critical case after such a tragic event, and these guys are all just sitting there just like, we ain't got nothing, man. It's just like, you can tell why they said this was like a reality show, because it definitely does feel that way.
I just want to say, this is the most uncalled for, unprofessional way to try a case. You all knew about this, and even if you didn't make your decision until this morning, to have 22 people plus all of this staff and every attorney march into court, be waiting as if it's some kind of game. Now I have to send them home. The state's not ready. They're not going to have a witness ready. We have another day wasted. I honestly have never experienced a level of unprofessionalism in my career. It's unbelievable.
So, Judge, we had a pre-trial matter. You asked us to be here at 9:15. We were here at 9:15 to discuss pre-trial.
It's okay though; they were on time to be there at 9:15. But still, though, it's just like, this guy was found guilty. You're deciding whether or not he should have the death sentence or life without parole. It should not be this hard to figure out and get this stuff together. It's just this is just, you feel what this judge is going through here. And let me see if I can get an update on this, because I don't know if this has been updated or not, but let me see. Okay, so later on down the road, later on in that year, actually, November 2022, he was officially sentenced to 34 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. So basically, he's just going to be in jail for the rest of his life. And quite frankly, he deserves it. Like he could have gotten the death penalty. and that would have been fine too. But you know what? He's not getting out of prison anytime soon unless he breaks out. But yeah, this turned out to be much darker than I wanted to. I wanted to get away from the tough, you know, I wanted to try to get away from the heart-wrenching story about this custody battle, and then we go into this trial where nobody's ready to go, and then I find out, oh, it's for the Parkland shooting victims. It's just like, oh my God. So hopefully this next story I'm going to have for you is going to be a much lighthearted story. I hope. Who knows? Maybe this lady I'm about to show you turns out to be a massive serial killer too. Who knows? Let's find out, shall we? Okay, so now we're going to try to end this on a little more lighthearted note, a funnier lighthearted note at least. We have another video from about a Karen that took place a couple years ago, and I just found this week, and I thought this would make for a very amusing storyline. So basically, on July 1st, 2022, JetBlue employees alerted officers at the Broward County Sheriff's Office that a woman had left her luggage at the terminal. She had stated that she would not pay a luggage fee and ordered a person of color to carry her bags. She warned that JetBlue employees had 3 minutes to take her bag. The woman was informed that her plane had departed 45 minutes earlier and was instructed to wait for the next flight. But that's not the story in particular here. The luggage that she had was 83 pounds. That's literally close to 100 pounds of luggage. And there was another video that I'm trying to find on here where they talk about how, what the price is, about the pricings that they had here, and kind of the scheme that she had going for here. Let me see if this video here actually has it.
Tips.
I mean, for me, I noticed that the JetBlue.
So, yeah, I mean, the dog didn't alert, so at least it's not,
Right,
it's
it's not
nothing
hazardous.
dangerous,
Right.
yeah.
This is like, it's as if someone says, hey, you know what, these are we can't rotate them.
Oh, it looks like a homeless person.
Yeah, when they open this bag up, you just see all the stuff just pushed inside of there. Like like when you open the thing up, there's like a whole thing of like, you know, medicines and all that kind of stuff. It's like scattered all over the place. There's like hangers. There's like clothes pushed into there. Like this woman stuffed this bag with so much stuff. And like, I'm thinking to myself, how the hell are you able to bring in a near 100-pound bag of luggage like that? And not get tired of doing so. Maybe it's, you know, when you take stuff to an airport, you usually have to take essentials, like take stuff that you know you're not going to be able to get once you get down there. Like have stuff ready to go, pretty much. Like this is just overkill, man. Like this is amazing, and it keeps going.
Like, house. I mean, it's got like all this. It's all shoes. And whatever the heck, this is like a whole container of Q-tips.
She bought a whole container of Q-tips. I mean, you can go to the airport store and get Q-tips. You don't need to bring a whole container of Q-tips. Like, this is stuff that you could easily just just leave at home, and it would not be a big deal, but not to this lady. But it's going to get worse from there, and hopefully they'll show what they're talking about with, like, the baggage fees and all that.
This looks like documents.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's part of what's causing the gulf a little bit.
So yeah, she's got, like, all these documents and, like, all these different laptops inside of here.
She's got a master's degree from Notre Dame. It's pretty good. We need to find her.
She bought a master's degree from Notre Dame. Like, you frame that stuff on the wall. You don't pack that in a suitcase and bring that with you. That is just like wow. Like that's stuff that you could easily leave. You don't need to go out. You don't need to bring that with you wherever you're going. Like, unless you've got some shady shit going on here, which is probably what this lady has, because I've talked about how she had like 5 laptops inside of there too, as well as these documents as well. So she might be doing something shady here.
I'm not sure why she would leave a whole suitcase. 561-923-52. So she's coming out to get her bag? She's not flying. Okay.
I just spoke with the supervisor that's covering the area. They're turning it over, so there's another, but I spoke with both of them, and I said the woman's going to come out. So there were other issues.
This is the JetBlue supervisor talking.
Also.
If she's intoxicated, she's definitely not supposed to be going anywhere. So.
Like toiletries too, like hygiene products, like perfume bottles, glass. That's what makes it ridiculously heavy. 83 pounds. Like, what do you have in here? A small child. And it was.
I've never had so many people board a plane either.
Okay, so they're not bringing up the JetBlue baggage fees here, but let's think about this for a second here. You have an 83-pound bag, an 83-pound suitcase, and let's just take a look at the bag prices here. I'm going to go to the JetBlue website and see what the prices are for nowadays. See if it comes up on here. Okay, so here's overweight and oversized bags. Bags that don't meet the dimensions and or weight restrictions are considered oversized and overweight and will be charged as follows. 51 pounds to 99 pounds, which is what she had, would be $150 per bag. Bags that exceed 70 pounds are not accepted on transatlantic flights. 63 inches would be also $150 as well. So, I'm trying to find the other video where they talk about the significance of this, because I guess she was trying to beat the system that they had there, and she got caught for doing that. But let me see if I can find it. Okay, so I found another video that kind of explains what's going on here. This is Vice Versa that has this video here. So I'll let them tell you what the information they hear.
It was more than just a forgotten suitcase. It was a mystery they needed to solve. The owner, a woman, was on her way to get it back, and she meant business. Turns out, there were more twists to this story. The airport staff told the police she might be drunk. And get this, if she's in Texas, she's not flying out.
She's not flying. Okay.
I just spoke with the supervisor.
All alone.
Like, what do you have in here? A small child.
This wasn't the first time they dealt with something like this. People leaving stuff behind, some even trying to get on a plane while drunk. This woman started talking loudly and saying things you just don't say, especially at an airport. She even used the bad word out loud.
I'm going to show you that in just a second here, but let me see if I can find the part that I was talking about here.
Continually used bad language and didn't compromise with the police officers. Then the police take serious action against this lady, and she got charged with hitting an officer and being drunk in public. The judge gave her probation and told her she had to do community service. And guess what? JetBlue Airlines won't let her fly with them ever again. This isn't her first mess up with the law either. Before this, she called 911 over 100 times for no good reason. If you enjoyed it.
So basically, okay, they're not going to explain it here. I saw in another video that had this clip on here that she was basically leaving the luggage there, hoping that JetBlue was going to send it back to her free of charge. Like, this was part of a scam that she was kind of supposedly involved in, but they caught on pretty quickly. And so let me show you how she got arrested, because this is where it gets pretty juicy. Actually, let me check something real quick. All right, here we go.
Intoxicated or under the influence? I mean,
It's crazy.
under the influence, you can
Smell it.
some of it is so strong. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you didn't hear her, she just called the cop the N-word. So, yeah, that's why I had to check first to make sure that it wasn't said on there so I don't get in trouble. But, yeah, that's a no-no right from the get-go. And surprise, surprise, it gets worse from there.
Yo, lady, we don't speak that here. What are you saying? Are you fucking kidding me? In the airport? In public? You said the N-word? Are you serious? You're yelling that shit here?
you can already tell from the looks of this lady that there's clearly something wrong with her. So she probably was drunk or something else, because her facial expressions and the way she's just looking at her, like she's got this ditzy face on her, like she's pulling a long con with them. But needless to say, the cops catch on pretty quickly.
No, go, no, you're gonna go. No, you're gonna take your big ass fucking cancer. Get that fucking.
And she's trying to use the fact that, well, my mother has cancer. It's like, so, okay, well, that's your... Well, I'm sorry for that, but that doesn't explain why you brought this huge-ass here. And then she throws the ultimate temper tantrum because she knows she's going to have to drag this thing out of the airport after dragging it in the first time. And, of course, that's not going to make her happy. There we go.
Excuse you, that's your Go get it. Get downstairs, lady. Get downstairs. I can't carry it. No, get your shit. Go downstairs. Go. Excuse you. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Get your hands You're gonna get arrested. That's what. Excuse you. No. No. I want to see my mother tomorrow.
You gotta love it when in videos like this, when, you know, like these people are all like tough and it's rough and tough, and then as soon as they pull the handcuffs out, and they're struggling to and they're trying to grab them from moving anything, they suddenly turn into soft little puppies, like stop, and this lady throws a childish temper tantrum at this whole thing, and it's friggin' hilarious.
No, you're arrested now. No, I'm not arrested. No. Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. Excuse you. Put your hands behind your back. Stop. You need to stop. You're too young. No, I am. You're acting like a freaking lunatic. He's dying of cancer. Nobody can.
It's like, but it's okay for you to act like a child like that. Clearly, I mean, like this is so ridiculous, and she took it to an extreme level. She could have just taken the luggage. She could have prevented this whole thing if she had just left all that pointless garbage she had at home. But nope, she couldn't do that.
Cares right now because you're acting like a lunatic at an airport. You're shouting racist, derogatory terms in the middle of an airport. No. You're not when you're blasted drunk, lady. But this officer told me that tomorrow I can. Well, not before you started yelling. You know what you just said? No.
And she keeps making the problem worse for herself because she just can't admit that she's at fault. And, yeah, she gets her comeuppance in every way that you would possibly think she gets her comeuppance.
You got the wrong culture, lady. Okay.
Like, I love how her ultimate motive now is just spout out any random racial slurs at any point in time, and they'll be perfectly fine. Like, nope, not at all.
My husband is a med-mal attorney. He's a senior partner in Midtown Manhattan. And there's no way you're going to let that go. I just said...
All right, sit back in the car.
Ow!
Sit down.
Ow! Are you f***ing crazy?
All right, man. We're not playing that game with you acting like a child, all right? You can sit like that. Do what you gotta do.
The woman was hit with a slew of charges, including assault on an officer and public intoxication. She was sentenced to probation and community service and has received a lifetime ban from JetBlue Airlines. This isn't her first run-in with the law. She was charged in a different case for calling 911 over 100 times. Anyway, write a comment. Do you think...
Who calls 911 100 times? Unless somebody is dying and nobody's getting out there quickly. Yeah, like, that's something that you really, like, there's no reason to be calling 911 100 times. That's just, That's just ridiculous. And even looking at this picture right now, this lady's clearly off her rocker, and I hope she gets some help, man, because like she's got a face that literally looks like it says, "I'm not crazy," when deep inside you are absolutely insane. And this video proves that. This video definitely does prove that. So yeah, that's something I saw this week. I thought that you might get a kick out of that one. So with that said, let's go back to let's end this show here because we've been going on for a while now. Let's get to some recommendations for the week. Again, not a really exciting new release week in general. There are a couple things of note that do come out on physical media that I have kind of my interest on. Justice League Crisis on Infinity Earths Part 1 comes out this week on the new Warner Brothers DC animated film. The Triplets of Belleville is getting a Blu-ray release, I believe, for the first time ever. Kindergarten Cop is getting a nice little 4K release by Kino Lorber. Classic Arnold Schwarzenegger movie directed by Ivan Reitman. In terms of streaming, there's only one thing I'm kind of looking forward to, and it's probably for the wrong reasons. It's this movie with Snoop Dogg in it called The Underdogs. It's going to be streaming on Amazon Prime Video on January 26th, and the story is pretty much what you expect from a story like this. You have Snoop Dogg playing a former NFL player who's agreed to coaching a youth football team in order to avoid going to prison as he tries to relaunch his career. It's the Mighty Ducks, it's the Benchwarmers, it's all these different sports comedies, it's the Bad News Bears, it's Little Giants, you name it. This movie's probably going to be absolutely horrible, but I was sold by how bad the trailer looked. I mean, this could be one of those so bad it's good type of movies, and it's rated R too, so I don't know what they're going to be able to get away with here, but we will see what happens. But I really am not going into this expecting too much. But yeah, not a whole lot of recommendations this week in general, but we had a pretty fun show all in all. We talked about a lot of different things, and it was good. It was good to do that. So that's going to wrap this week up. Thank you guys for listening in on the Reviewing Network Live. If you like what you heard, let me know your thoughts down below. Hit the like and subscribe button, and also check out some of the other videos we've done. We'll be back here next Sunday night at midnight. All new episodes get put up every Sunday night at midnight, and I hope that you will be there to see them. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys next time. And until the next time I see you, we are out.